Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to show number 198. How you doing? What's happening out there? What's happening? What happened this week? Let's see. I put out a video for the Thermion Fuzz, Stone Age Fuzz, that does a whole bunch of different fuzz circuits in one fuzz box. One thing I didn't show in the video, because this kind of ran out of time before Thanksgiving making it, but I did want to mention it does do a great fuzz face roll off the volume cleanup thing in the fuzz face mode. So for anybody who watched that video, there was one guy that had a question in the comments if it cleaned up. It does. It is sensitive to, like a vintage fuzz would be to guitar pickups and stuff like that. You would probably want to run it first in your chain without a buffer in front, and although that might not matter on the muff setting. But anyway, really cool fuzz box with some nice features to add clean mix in and fine-tune the top end of the fuzz, fine-tune the low end, and really kind of shape it, which is pretty cool. Like kind of the deficiencies of vintage fuzz pedals that could cause problems depending on what amp you're plugged into, what guitar you're using and stuff, you can kind of tame and tune. And so it's neat. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. I don't know what it is about fuzz videos, but they're the hardest ones to kind of get to get views on. Even more than like I would say the hardest videos are tremolo pedals and fuzzes. You'll upload an overdrive or especially a distortion, like a hard rock and metal distortion, anything from Friedman or, anything like that. That's kind of, Marshall plexi based or whatever. Those, lots of people watch those fuzz videos. It's like, it's just more of a niche, I guess. It's more of a niche thing that not as many guitar players are into. So, but anyway, it's a really fun pedal, and I enjoyed the tones that I got out of it a lot. So check it out. And what else? The Emerald Virtuo guitar, which is a hollow guitar, kind of acoustic guitar, really, that has a couple of Fishman Fluence electric humbuckers in it as well. 13-pin Roland synth output. Hybrid acoustic electric guitar really is what it is. And it's composite. Somebody said I say that wrong. Composite. Who cares? It's made out of stuff that's not wood. So there you go. No, I'm a sucker for proper pronunciation. But I also think that people say that word in different places differently. Catsup. Is that a bad example? Toyota Celica if you're from Canada. Mazda if you're from Canada. Mazda if you're from the United States. Oh, look, I'll shut up now because there's a super chat. Modern Vintage, is there anything, I'm not going to shut up and I'm going to talk about something relevant. Is there anything about the reactive load IR that is different changes or degrades compared to the reactive load? No. The load is exactly the same. It's exactly the same in my amp too. It's just kind of miniaturized, but Kevin worked really hard to get it to sound and function exactly the same. It's the same, does the same thing, same parts, exact same impedance curve and all that. So they're all the same. And they work great. Is the IR length still limited to the SIR IR length? Using IRs via DAW? No. It's you can do whatever in the DAW you want, and it's just a straight analog out if you use the thing line out with no IRs enabled. And then you can do full 500 millisecond or even longer, whatever your DAW is capable of. Yeah. And once again, short IRs work fine for close mic sound. So it just depends whether you want to get some room thing going, early reflections and stuff. That's what I found anyway. Honestly, I don't really hear a difference. And like I say, if you look at the tail of the IR, because you can actually just put the IR in your DAW, like as a little WAV file, load it in, and then look at it, and you can see what's going on. And beyond, 20 milliseconds, there's a lot of them, and all the Celestian ones, there's nothing happening, So the short ones just work fine. But there are some that have more going on out beyond. It depends on the brand that you're looking at. It depends how much, how they did them. If they did them in a room with room mics mixed in and stuff, kind of thing, early reflections mixed in. So it just depends. T-Top says, enjoyed the Jump video. That's right. I put up another Mitch Malloy Van Halen experience video, and it was Jump this week. So thanks. Appreciate that. Just us having a good time playing some tunes. That's what it's all about, having fun. What else we got here? Any experience with Anderson guitars? Not very much, man. To be honest, I sat down when I was in Indonesia with one, doing a clinic over there. It's a nice music store that I did a clinic in, and they have a lot of high-end guitars, and one of the things they had was some Andersons. So I thought, I've never really played these guitars, so I'm going to sit with this one for a while and just play it. And that's the only time I've ever really spent with one. I thought it was very nice. I know John has a lot of respect for Tom and the way he builds, and John Sir, I should say, has a lot of respect. I just call him John now. A lot of respect for Tom Anderson. They're friends going way back. And so if John says he builds right, I know he does. But yeah, he's also, John's got a lot of respect for the fact that he kept his business small, and, he's got a small shop, and he's just happy building guitars at the rate that he's building them at, not always, expanding and stuff. John, he said, that's cool the way Tom does things, he likes it. So, and I think John actually draws some inspiration from that as well when it comes to, because obviously there's a lot of pressure all the time when you run a business to grow, and anybody that's involved in it, and John's serves a much bigger guitar company than Anderson, but he has a healthy respect for, hey, we don't have to be the biggest all the time, start making guitars overseas or all the things that companies do. He's more concerned about being, the best, making great stuff, in California, doing it the way he does it and stuff, and staying that way, growing, but not like this exponential growth that everybody always, when the bean counters get involved and all that. Okay. What else? Hip Metal Works is out there on Vancouver Island. Have you guys got a lot of rain out there? I wonder, because I know it's raining like crazy in Vancouver, and they've had like weather advisories and, from mudslides and things like that. Because it's like, you look at the weather in Vancouver, it's just like 100% chance of rain all week for days on end. So anyways, I was just wondering how it's going out there on the island. Because I know you get less rain out there, and you're less, sort of generally speaking, right, susceptible to those weather systems that the mainland gets. I don't know. Am I wrong about that? I think I'm right. Ben Tom says, where is our faithful moderator, Ben Coombs? Ben has a plumbing situation today, as I understand it, that he's dealing with. So that's what I understand. Okay, what plugins do you like? Says Braxall. Plug-in paralysis. I get that. Option anxiety. I do not have a UA interface. All the guitar amp stuff from Plug-in Alliance is great. You just reminded me, actually, I've got to download another Plug-in Alliance plugin that I got a license for the other day. I want to try their SSL console plugin, see how it works. But yeah, Plug-in Alliance, Brainworks, great stuff. Nembrini, really nice guitar amp plugins that I've tried. I like some Waves stuff, their authorization and the way that they, upgrade plans and all that. It really drives me crazy. I'm not sure if they're doing it the same as they used to now, same as a couple of years ago. I don't know. But I use the Greg Wells plugin on just about everything I do. The Mix-centric plugin, it's just a terrific final bus kind of polish. What else is really good? I really like the Sound Toys. The delays are fantastic. Echo Boy Jr. Their distortion plugins, their just all of their kind of phasing and filter plugins and stuff are really fun. So Sound Toys is great stuff. Check those out too. Stephen Slate. I've got his $14.95 a month plan. Where you subscribe and you get all his plugins. There's tons of great stuff in there. Effects Rack, EQs, Neve style, SSL style, the compressors. The nice thing about Stephen Slate plugins, they sound really quite good, and they're low hit on the CPU. So you can load them up in a DAW in a template and use them as you record. And unlike UA plugins, which I love and I use all the time, but the UA you can't use as you're tracking really. Now you can in Luna. Through their kind of workaround with Luna if you use that DAW, but I digress. Anything else you were mentioning, you don't have a UA interface. So But anyway, so this is Stephen Slate. You know, they've gone the way of the subscription thing where you can subscribe $15 a month. You get everything then. Like if you need, that's probably actually a pretty good way to go. If you need a kind of everything all in one solution, get the subscribe to the Slate thing. And if you don't like it, you can just have it for a month and then you don't have to have it anymore. You know, so it's a nice way to go if you need a bunch of compressors, EQs. You know, you get reverbs, you get, I mean, just tons of stuff. You can get S gear, I think, like amp modeling plugins. There's just everything you need in there, really, to do stuff. There's, you know, delays and different, all kinds of pitch. They've got a pitch plugin for fixing vocals and all kinds of stuff. Eric, there in the super chat. What's up, man? Thanks for the super chats, guys. Loved the VHE video. I love Into the Ether. Thanks, man. Can you dive into the amazing lead sound? That was all Axe Effects, actually, the original one. Into the Ether, I just did as a kind of I was, you know, working with the Axe Effects and trying to, you know, figure out things. And this is way, way back, man. That must have been 2010 that I did that song. Maybe 2009 with the original, you know, it was either an Axe Effects Ultra or the original one. And just kind of like making sounds in there and stuff. So everything in there. And I don't really remember much beyond that, exactly what I would have used, but it was probably, you know, some of the Marshall style Sims. And I bet the lead sounds are that with either, you know, a fuzz or you know, an 808 style drive or something in front. But everything, everything's coming out of the Axe Effects on Into the Ether. And that may be one of the only songs that I've ever done like that. Oh, I did a version of Homage that's on, or homage. Another word that you could say. How do you pronounce it properly? It's my own song. I don't know how to say it. Homage. I did a version of that on YouTube that uses the Axe Effects for all the sounds as kind of a demo for it, but it's not the version on the record. Still sounds really good, though. Have you tried the Keeley Katana Clean Boost? I used to have one of those on my pedal board. It was great. It sounded like a clean boost that has a little extra something going on, like that sort of sparkly, you know, like jangle that it seemed to add. I don't know if that's true or not, but when you would pull the pot out, and it just seemed to add something to the sound that was really neat. It was a really nice boost pedal. Yeah. Stephen Slate seems to have serious OCD for tone. Stephen's a great guy. He's actually a friend of mine. I mean, I've known him for a long time, and I see him around and go to his fun parties and stuff sometimes. And he's a riot. He's got a really good sense of humor. He's very bright and enterprising, and you know, he's a character, and he's done really well for himself. And the plugins are great. You know, he does good stuff. I guess the first thing that I got involved in was Stephen Slate drums. That would be the first thing and I used to use that on a lot of stuff. I use mainly Superior now just because I like their browser and the grooves it comes with and stuff. But Stephen Slate drums is still terrific sounding, and I do still use it on some things and enjoy it a lot. And Trigger is great too for drum replacement, and I have that as well. Javier, what's up? Thanks for the super chats, guys. Check out your jump video. Incredible, man. Thank you. How do you deal with ground loops? Having ground loop trouble with my Cajon and 4 amps. PT15 on the session was killer. Thanks. I know I happen to have a thing here. This is a good one to get. I knew it was out, sitting on my table there, so easy to grab. The Hum Eliminator from Eptec. I can recommend this highly. So it's just 2 isolation transformers in a box, 2 ins and outs. So if you've got a loop in front of your amp and a loop, you know, if you need to, you know, isolate things, just having one of these around is awesome. So look for this guy, Eptec Hum Eliminator, 2 channels of isolation transformation. Good stuff. That's the one that I would recommend, long story short. There's other ones out there. I mean, you could get the Palmer, is about $50 or $60. It's just a single channel like that. It's got a jack on each end. There's a Samson one too. Samson, 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 you know, and it's got, it's $35, I think, or something. I bought one at Sam Ash once while I was on the road and needed one. It works just fine. They're all the same. They do the same kind of thing, basically. So there's some Samson, Palmer, Eptec. John, you have a piece of gear to demo. You're all set up and ready to go. Where does the tune come from? The gear, the drums? you know, you got to learn to not be too hard on yourself and just like plug in and you get a sound. And like, you know, if it's a wild sounding fuzz, you play some single note riffs. If it's a chorus, I might do some arpeggiation with some pretty chords, a la Alex Lifeson or something. If it's a straight up Marshall Plexi, I might try and, you know, maybe listen to a little bit of Van Halen and get inspired to write in that style or something. You just play to the tone is kind of what I do, you know. I don't know how else to describe it. That's it, really. You know, if it's a delay, I'll let the delay speak by playing something simple like Andy Summers would have with a delay or something, you know, where the delay echoes. You know, it could be one chord. And you let the, you know, and you know, and then around that, you write a bass line. I don't know, I'm just writing shit in my head, but you know, two chords. I mean, simple stuff like that, and then go from there with a melody or whatever. I don't know how else to describe it. That's how I think of music. Exactly what I just was, you know, like, it's that simple. Even without a guitar in your hands, you can kind of, I think, you know. And once again, it's not like, oh wow, where's that coming? There's one chord, you know, but it's knowing to just hit the one chord and then let the effect speak. That's kind of how I write. You're asking, I think, specifically about like how I get inspired with a piece of gear to demo. That's how I do it. Trying to play to the strengths of the gear and really show it off. Deshaun, you guys, thanks for the super chats. You're helping me with the coffee this week. I appreciate it. Good. It's time for new beans almost. I have a chance to buy a box AC15 C1 for a good price. Own a Mesa Rectorberg 25. Is it worth getting a box? I don't know that particular, you know, version. Let's see, still aiming for the Marshall and the PT15 later. I'd say that it would let you know if you find that kind of amp interesting, like, or it would inform you, you know, having that AC15, it would, because I think it's basically kind of like, they're sort of like an AC30. They're not like an AC, it's not like an AC15 with an EF86 front end, right? That amp, it's more like the Pento tube, right? It's like an AC30 front end. It's 15 watts, I think. I mean, it'll get you in the ballpark of even, you know, the boutique versions of that amp and stuff, and let you know if you like it, I think. That sound, you know, which is a specific sound that you really, in my opinion, can't get out of any other amp. The AC30 thing is a unique thing. It's got a unique EQ and unique sort of compression and the drive, you know, when you crank them up and stuff. I mean, look, I have two sitting right here, basically, as these, you know, I really like that style of amp. You know, so that's why I got that top hat, because it's just like that sound is something I really enjoy. And I gravitate towards for certain things, you know, and it's not a sound, and I'll gladly say it's not a sound that the PT100 will do or the PT15. It's a different thing that you need to have that amp for. And indeed, I mean, I used to with Cornell, I mean, I used this for, you know, a lot of that was my clean sound. It was AC30 style amp. And then I would foot switch over to for the heavy sounds to the, you know, the Comet or the EVH 5150 on the Blue Channel that I used for about a year on tour for the kind of Marshall-y thing that it did. Yeah. What else have we got here? Let's see. Love the jump video. What FRFRs did you use? Can you talk about your main preset configuration? I didn't actually use FRFRs. You're hearing mic'd 412s on that. 3 Sir 412 signature PT100 matching cabinets. I wish you could see the cabinets better in the video. It was like they were very far because of the way the lighting designer for that show, because there was a lighting designer, and because of the way that he had his part, or like whatever. They're not park hands. They're like park hands. It's old school. They're like very lights or whatever on. He had them in front of the cabinets, and the cabinets got pushed quite far back. But I had 3 412s on that stage that you can't really see in the videos. This is unfortunate, but anyways, yeah, no FRFRs. It was real cabinets, and now, if I did it again, what I would end up doing is I think 2 cabinets next time, and running also IRs to front of house, because I didn't do that this time. It's mic'd. The sounds in the videos is 3 412s mic'd with 357s, and it sounds great. I think actually, like I was really happy with the way the tone came out. You know. I thought it really does, you know, that sound quite good. So, but I would next time probably go stereo out of the quad cortex into 2 cabs, and then also have a second split with IRs and send that to the house, just because it sounds great and maybe better. The IRs, I think, you know, the cabinet sim is great in that thing. I could use like external IRs, or, you know, you from York or Celestion or something, or 2 notes or whatever I want to do in that thing. Just, you know, export them as waves and then use them. But the ones that are in the unit itself, there's one particular cab sim I found in the quad cortex, which is the 90s greenback Marshall 412 or whatever. So it's a 90s cabinet with 90s greenbacks in it. That one I like actually even more than the 60s ones, or the, you know, it sounds great for that Van Halen sound. It's a little brighter and more aggressive. It sounds really terrific. So, yeah. This is great. I got to get to this other super chat before it disappears. But who else freaked out when Lucy fell off Ringo's drum riser? Yeah. Who's been watching the Beatles? You know, the Get Back shows. Oh, God, it's so good. I'm really enjoying it. You know, as I think a lot of people are. But who's that? Really enjoying the hell out of it. It's great. And yeah, when that Les Paul falls, I mean, it's like, I can't believe it fell, and, you know, it hits the ground pretty good on the butt of the guitar. For sure, it made a mark. But then starts sliding sideways, and you're like, oh, the headstock's going to go, you know. Anyway. Okay. Let's see. A couple super chats here. I talked to Neil Schoen earlier via Instagram. He just picked up 2 EVH EL34 heads. I'm not familiar with EVH amps. Have you tried? Yes, that's an amp that I just mentioned, actually, that I used on tour for about a year. I had a 100-watt head, and really enjoyed it. Neil seems to be quite enjoying EVH guitars as well these days. You see him using them in a lot of his videos. He's pretty active on Instagram and Facebook and stuff, and he seems to be enjoying them. So that's cool. And I guess they were probably like, hey, you want to check out some amps? And I'm sure he was like, sure. And then he did. And then he's like, okay. And then they're like, great. And then the rest is history. Yeah. How does a maple top on a basswood body affect the tone of the guitar? You could ask Sir that, but I would say it would add a little bit of clarity and snap to the sound. Would probably be I've got some more super chats here. I'm not going to forget you guys. So a little more clarity, a little more snap, a little more open top end, probably, you know, a little more, maybe a little more clear solidity. Is that a word? To the tone. That's, you know, I know it's one of John's favorite combos, and especially for high gain. You know, I quite like basswood, I must say. Some people don't like it, but I think it's pretty cool for high gain, you know, like because that's what's in those EVH guitars. And I actually think it sounds pretty damn good for gainy stuff. Some people think it sounds like a wet rag or something, but I think it's got a thing. And I would say the maple top, just, you know, I mean, that's a you know, the Wolfgang. That's what Wolfgangs with maple tops are, right? The Axis, you know. Bent Tom's asking me if I've seen Ozzy's videos from Three Monkeys. Oh, this is interesting. Chasing the early Van Halen sounds. I have, actually. I think he does a great job. He just did a video on using an API channel strip and a Pultec style EQ. I'd like to hear that. I'd like to hear what he did with the Pultecs. Pultecs are amazing on anything. You know, such a great thing. Pultec's a vintage EQ for those out there that don't know, that existed in a lot of recording studios and still do. And they just kind of, you put them in line, they're just magic. And they're very, like, you know, soft as far as the They're not, aggressive or like in the curves and the cuts and the boosts you can do. They're very big wide curves and stuff like that. So you can add low end and add top end, and it just does this gentle thing to the sound. But they also just kind of warm up the sound, even just running through them without even using the EQ. And they have this amazing, like, just everything gets bigger through a Pultec in a great way. It's kind of like running through an 1176. They just have a thing that's cool. Yeah. Simto says that the song just kind of already exists when I get an idea. It's like I can hear the whole thing and I just need to get it before I lose it. Yeah, that's a great way to describe it for me too. I think you gotta, and the iPhone has been instrumental in me not losing ideas, like just having the recorder in there so I can sing into it and stuff. It just is awesome for that. One thing I really like the phone for. Chris says there in the super chat, help me waste some cash. Sweetwater has a Furman P1800 voltage regulator power conditioner on sale for $699. Too much for an amateur or good investment for recording a tube amp at home? I don't have one. And, I've done a lot of work over the last number of years here. And I think it's probably cool to have something that, especially if your voltage it depends on your situation, like if you meter your voltage and you find it's flying all over the place, or you're getting 126 out of the wall at home and you're running vintage Marshalls or something, it's like, yeah, like I kind of think it's good to have something like that to like, because that's the one that'll do, it's a voltage regulator. You can actually change the output, right? Much kind of like you would on a variac, like, and it'll condition the power and then also regulate to it. Well, the difference between in a variac, you can say I want it to be 118 like all the time, and it'll kind of handle that for you, right? So it could be good. It just depends on your situation, at home. If your power is inconsistent, or but I don't know that much about that stuff, to be honest. How to gauge that. I don't know it's going to make your stuff sound better, I do believe in the brown box thing and variacs and stuff of vintage Marshalls. I think, it's good to have certain old tube amps, they want to see like 110, and, you're already above that if you're doing 117. And it's, I talk to, a lot of people say, oh, my house is like 125. It's like, that's a lot of voltage, like over what 15 volts or something on top of what they were meant to see is, so the amps are generally happier and just kind of sound better and stuff like that, I think, at 110. So depending on your amp collection and stuff, that could be a thing. Okay. Eddie, what's up in the super chat? Thoughts on a 50-watt Marshall vintage modern head with matching 412 that has greenback G12Cs? I remember those. I kind of like the vintage modern. It had KT66s in it. It's a different amp, but it sounded good. I only played through one once. I tried it at Guitar Center Sherman Oaks. I remember plugged into it, played through it for a little while, and I thought this is a pretty cool sounding amp. And I know Paul Gilbert liked them for a while. Yeah. So if it sounds good to you, it is good, preamp tube recommendations, I would probably go just tested low noise Chinese ones, the standard, 9th gen, whatever they call them, Chinese. Go to Doug's Tubes or the Tube Store, you can find them. If you want to get something else, or if they're out of those and they don't have them because I know the supply's been scarce since that factory's kind of offline, you could try those. I really like the new JJ E83cc, not the ECC83. The E83cc is the one, the newer JJ. It sounds really quite good to me. Also nice, the 7025 from EH. It's a little lower gain, but sounds good. Arthur says his top chat vanished, but I think I got it, didn't I? The one that you're thinking of. If not, just ask again down in the bottom here. I'll find you. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. Well, there's another chat. Did I miss this one? Happy holidays from Robert Valdez. Thank you, my friend. What guitar and what pedals would you take to a rock jam where you could play 3 of your favorite tunes? Well, it would depend. If it was AC/DC, I would probably just take the guitar and make sure they had a Marshall. If it was Pink Floyd, you know. Well, I mean, like, actually, once I took a Helix to go play Pink Floyd. I don't remember what song we were doing, but it required some effects. So I used it just like for the pedal sounds, like, and set the amp. There was actually a high watt there. So I plugged into the high watt with the Helix, and maybe I had a fuzz and all the stuff in the Helix. And I just kind of ran it in front of a clean amp, set neutral in my studio, and set up the sounds. So everything from nothing to a Helix, but it's really dependent on the sounds you need, and that's where the modelers can come in really handy. If you're like, I need like a delay and an overdrive, and in this part I need a fuzz and a different delay, and then I need a compressor and a reverb or something for whatever. Then you can make 3 presets, in a Helix, and not with any amp sims. Just run it right in front of a clean amp, and try and get your sounds that way. That can work good. So yeah. Okay, let's see. What else have we got? Bent Thomas saying Yoko is so annoying. She's not really annoying in the movie. Isn't Yoko kind of redeemed? I mean, in the whole first 3. Okay, I've only seen the first one, to be honest, and I haven't even gotten all the way through it. So I got to watch the other episodes. So maybe you guys have seen something I haven't. But at least in the first one, she's just chilling, and it's nice to see her and Linda like gabbing as they're writing. What's the song? It's like they're totally arranging, like, I can't remember what epic song it is, but it's something amazing. And they're just gabbing, as the Beatles are doing their work. It's like pretty cool. Wow, Jay watched all 3 parts. That's impressive. You must have been. I've been, getting home at night and starting at around 11, and then I can't get, by 12:30 or something, I'm like falling asleep, which is pretty cool because I'm like falling asleep while the Beatles are writing songs. It's really been, it's great. I love the series so far. Has been really enjoyable. It's just a nice thing to, I love how I was like, okay, my takeaway yesterday is like, when they're working on that Commonwealth track, as they're working on Get Back, and I didn't realize Get Back was like a protest song against the kind of anti-immigrant movement that was happening at the time. And so they're working on that. They're calling it Communion and doing a blues basically. And John's going, yeah, or whatever he's doing. It's like, I want to be in this band right now. Like, this is fun. Like, I could totally hang in this situation with these guys acting like goofs. They're like so silly. And it was like, this band is fun, man. I don't know. It really brings it like, the fly on the wall experience is like really neat. It's like demystifies a lot of things. And I love how John's just like a ham, like basically throughout the entire thing, It's really cool. It seems like they had a hell of a lot of fun. Well, maybe some stress, anyways, yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Neil's been a Wolfgang cat lately. I was just gonna say, I'm really enjoying him playing them. Yeah, it's neat to see him enjoying Ed's guitars and getting into, like, it's great seeing him sort of, he's the like kind of number 1 guy, it seems, using him right now, and really putting him out there, and that's awesome because, he was friends with Ed, and it's just cool. Yeah. Alrighty. What else we got here? Just go down through the chat. 212 versus 412. I think that a 212 is, for most people, way more reasonable these days as far as carrying it around, but there's still no substitute when you play through a 412. It's really fun, it's just got this thing, but it's not really like the microphone doesn't really hear it as better, I don't think. Like in the front of house and everything, you can rest assured if you're carrying if it's a good 212, and you're at a gig or whatever, you're fine. Like with a great 212 versus a 412 in the front of house, it's going to be 6 of one, half dozen the other. Like my PT 212s, they sound great, and yeah, the 412 sounds really big and awesome and feels great on stage, but it's not like it's not 100% necessary. So Hachiko Honey is in Russia. Greetings from Russia. But you've got katakana there in your, the alphabet. That's cool. Are you forgive my ignorance, are you like close to Japan in Russia? I wonder. Or are you just a fan of Japan? Or are you just a Japanese expat living in Russia? Could be all those things. What else we got here? Cabinet box will have more effect than amp head or pickups. I mean, I largely think that's true. It's the speakers. Yeah, speakers in the box. I think that's what you mean. It can have a huge effect on the overall tone for sure. Cabinets and speakers are, I always say, like half the sound, massive. Have I used Manly gear? Not in physical land, only in plug-in land. And I love the variable MU or whatever compressor on a mix bus for certain things. I know they're really highly regarded, Manly microphones, the Vox box, but I've only used the plugins, which I really dig. Big fat analog sounds. The first record I ever did, like on a label and all that, it was mastered. I remember through one of those Manly variable MU, with the guy hitting it and getting about a dB or dB and a half a gain reduction in the mastering stage. So I guess I've sort of used it indirectly. Let's see what else. Speaking again about that Marshall, the Vintage Modern, it's got the KT66s once dialed in. It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, they were cool. It sounded good to me when I tried one. They were around for a few years and then they discontinued them. And I was like, well, I guess that's that. But it was a unique amp. And I liked it when I played through it. I thought it sounded pretty good. Yep. Another vote for the Pultec EQ here. One of the few UA plugins that I use when recording is the Pultec EQ. Great sound. Okay, heading down to the bottom of the chat because there's a super chat there and I'm going to grab it. Speaking of the modern vintage or vintage modern, we're just talking about the Marshall Vintage Modern and you're the modern vintage. How interesting. How are those hand-wired 1900 Marshall 412s? Neil posted them with the 5153s. So your second question there, I think the amps changed over the years, and I don't understand how. Friedman knows a little more than me, but there was more gain. Like the early one that I had, the early 6L6, I know the later ones have an extra gain stage in them. So even on the blue channel, they got gainier. I thought my original one was awesome, like had a really good sound. And so I think just Eddie wanted more gain a lot of the time. So, and I just don't know what the changes are beyond that. So there's got to be some folks out there that have owned both because those amps have sort of a cult following of their own where people will know the difference between the 50s and the 100s and the 34s versus the 6L6s and the different versions, But hand-wired $1,900 Marshall 412s, I mean, that sounds like a lot of money for a 412 to me. That's substantially more than my PT cabinet. Is it worth it? I don't know, to be honest. If you listen to it in the seas part and the heavens open up, then I guess it's worth it in a way. But it's I tend to like vintage Marshall 412s, and what I mean by that is like the late 60s, early 70s ones when they were, I guess they're birch, right? And they're I think, and they seem to be not like a lot of modern 412s will have they'll be really tight and they'll have a lot of, even when they put the batting inside them and stuff, the stuff to kind of dampen them. I don't really like that. I don't like the cabinet to be too tight and too you know, they weren't like braced and super stiff back in the day. There was a little bit of give there, and there was something about that where the cabinets don't sound so congested. So if the vintage style, you know, $1,900 Marshall 412s are like that, I would say that's cool. It just sounds like that's a lot of money to me, and you could probably get, you know, I mean, cabinets is kind of it's a bit of an elusive thing. I mean, everybody talked about the Carry Wright cabinets and how amazing they are. You know, I don't know. I'd have to try one, you know, to really, it's like there's still a lot of stuff I haven't tried. My vintage Marshall in the other room is a 78 or 79, so it's not super vintage, but that cabinet just sounds right to me with the black backs in it and the, you know, you plug in and you go, oh, it's like listening to a record on vinyl where you're like, oh yeah, that's the sound. I remember. That's the way the guitar sounds, you know, like it. Does that make sense? So I don't know. Like I think $1,900 you could buy an old one. Maybe I would probably do that. If you were going to spend $2,000 on a cabinet, I would probably get an old one. You know, find a vintage one from the mid to early 70s or something, and just don't look back. Find one with speakers that haven't been reconed, because you might be able to still get one for that. I think. Maybe, you know, under $2,000 or just under. You know, I'd rather have that, to be honest. So I was going to spend that kind of money. Bent Tom says Mojo Tone builds theirs like the old ones. I mean, Mojo cabs seem pretty cool to me from what I've seen, you know. And yeah, they're not so much money, you know. It's like it's a lot of money when you get into this stuff. And if you buy something like that, you want it to hold its value and stuff. I would just say if you've got that kind of dough, go vintage, and it'll be cool, you know. Because the speakers matter too, you know. You're still going to get new speakers in a new cabinet, and they're cool. New greenbacks are cool, you know. But there's something about old greenbacks. Or, God, man, the one cabinet that kind of haunts me is at line 6. You know, they own a lot of old amps and stuff at line 6 because they modeled them and stuff over the years, right? So they bought them for their collections. They have a hell of an amp collection that's pretty cool. And if you go there, they've got them all in a room, and you know, it's neat. It's like this. It's like going into a great vintage, you know, amp shop or something where there's like tons of cabs and amps. And one of the things they have is a like 66 maybe Marshall cabinet with 20-watt Celestians in it, like the really, you know, and that cabinet sounds so good. They won't let me play it very loud, which I don't want to blow it up. So, you know, but like with the PT100, I played through it one day there with the master down, not, you know, up a little bit, but ooh, man, that sounds good, that cabinet. My amp, so nice. And you know, there wasn't like a buttload of, you know, like thought. I don't think they were just building them as the, you know, it wasn't like, oh, it's got to be this exact spec or whatever, the size and the dimensions and the bracing and no, it was just a cabinet that they made, and it just happened to be a nice design that sounded really great, you know. Anyways, you know what I'm saying. Simon there in the super chat. Hi from Germany. What's up, man? Thanks for all your videos. Thank you. Always learning stuff from you. As a newer player, just wondering if you have a favorite way to set your guitars up, relief and action. I set the necks almost straight with just the hair of relief. The nut has to be cut right. The relief in the neck, okay, if the frets are great, let's assume the frets are great on your guitar. The next most important thing is probably the nut. The nut being cut just right, so that it doesn't bind, and so that it's just the right height for each string and the spacing is right. And only a good tech can really do that. So that's something that you want to have looked at, because even a cheap guitar, you know, if you get the frets dressed on a cheap guitar and you get a nut cut right, it can feel amazing and sound great and play great, you know. If the nut's too high for me, first of all kinds of things happen, actually. Like it feels like crap down below the 7th fret, you know, the strings just start getting kind of high. And I hate that. Like even when the action's low up here, it's like, what? It feels like high down here. And then beyond that, you get to like the 2nd and 1st frets, and the notes are sharp because you're pushing the string further. It's, you know, it's weird. It's like it's traveling further than it needs to, and it affects the pitch. So, you know, that's like a telltale thing on Les Pauls and stuff. You get down to the 1st fret, you fret the F note, and it's sharp compared to the open note or the 3rd fret, let's say. You know that the nut's probably too high. So those things are really important. And then beyond that, it's just, you know, setting the intonation and the action just right. But Yeah, if the nut is too high, the lower chords will sound terrible. Yeah, it just pulls those bass notes, especially out of tune. And it's like, it's weird, you know, and it feels bad and it doesn't sound good. So, yeah. What do you suggest I do to go to Hollywood to get a job for singing? Don't do it. Stay in law school. I don't know. The Voice these days. What do you do these days? Honestly, The Voice, American Idol seems to be where the singers go these days. It's weird. And then, you know, the opposite of that is you start a band and, you know, you just record and play gigs and, you know. What else have we got here? Just looking through the chat. These new hemp speakers are interesting. Yeah, I've never tried a hemp cone speaker. One thing that I've never gotten into. Is there a hemp cone Celestion now? I think there might be. I should give it a try, I guess, one of these days. How often, if ever, do you use looping pedals? Pretty much never. Well, okay, I use one all the time. There's one right in front of me. It's the closest pedal to me, so I lie. I use this thing all the time in my video demos because I use it to loop sections so that I can then turn the knobs on the amp or the pedal or whatever, just keep it looping. But I don't use it like in a, you know, I'm going to loop music and then I'm going to play on top of it or whatever way. So this gets a lot of use around here, and it has for many years. I've had this for probably 6 years now or something. So other than that, when I make a video for a looper, which I've done for, you know, Keeley and Pigtronics, maybe Boss, can't remember all the looper videos I've made, but I'm not a looper guy, really. I'm not an Ed Sheeran, although I enjoy it when I do it, but it's like, it's a, it's not something that I'm super into doing. It's just not really part of my style, I don't think. So it's always a bit of a challenge for me to make videos like that. But I do enjoy it when I, you know, it's a little maddening, and I'll be pissed off like as I'm doing it, you know, because I'm like, like I can't get the loop point just right, and then it's driving me crazy, and I'll want to loop and layer with different sounds. And so I've learned the thing. I've got to the point where I'm doing it, but then getting the performance of, like, you know, where I'm happy with it, it's a day of work, you know. It's always like, and by the time I get it, I'm like, that was it, I got it done, and then I unplug the thing and I put it away and I never want to see it again. No. But if you're into looping, it's like a thing, you know. It's just something that I find a little maddening, but it is cool. I respect people that can do it well. I do. Yeah, 2K probably buys you a great 70s cab with the original Celestions. I think so. I think you could probably get an original one for, you know, really nice, probably in good shape, and it'll be cool. Like, it's I don't discourage you from doing that as much as like an amp costs, and, you know, amps these days. I mean, even JCM 800s are well over $2,000 and stuff these days. Vintage ones, you know, old ones, vintage. It's like getting a vintage cabinet could make a much bigger difference than, say, you know, I mean, like having just a great vintage cab that you can run all your amps through and record through and stuff is really cool. Because the paper was just different back then and stuff, and a lot, especially pre-73, like the old, you know, pre-Rolex Celestions from when they had the fire or whatever at the factory, and then the paper formula changed and things changed. And so that's true that happened. And it's like, there's something about the old ones that are, they're just kind of really special sounding. The closest equivalent that I can, you know, it's like listening to something on CD or on a MP3 or something, and then you put on the LP and you listen to it, and you're like, oh, that's how AC/DC is supposed to sound when you hear it, you know. And that's what an old Marshall cabinet sounds like. It's really cool. It's like, God, so it's, you know, more than a new pedal or many times new guitars or anything. A vintage cabinet can be like pretty cool if they're in good shape. I feel compelled to bring up again how amazing the PS100 is. For sure, great unit. Yeah, it'll change the way you use your amps, you know, if you like playing through amps and you've got loud ones that you can't use at home otherwise. I'm actually looking at getting a second one. It doesn't change the sound or feel at all. Yeah, it's so close, if it does change, that it's like negligible. It's just a terrific thing for us guitar players that like tube amps. Drop Dead Legs is the highlight. I think you're talking about the videos we put out. Thanks. I'm glad you like it. I love that song so much. And I was really happy with the way the tone came together. I don't know what it is about. Well, I had the harmonizer on for that, which made it really cool. You know, it had like a That's just the harmonizer in the quad cortex, you know, +9 on one side, +9 or -9 on the other, and I had it mixed in about 25% or something, I think, and it added a really neat thing. Yeah. Yep. That jump video is unreal. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks. In the solo, it's funny because like I don't know where I am with the drums. And the crazy thing, you know, the jump. That's one of the amazing things about Van Halen's, man. The brothers. It's like, how the hell did they come up with the prog rock solo section? And we just hear it as jump now. It's like, oh, it's jump, and it's like really weird, like in the middle. You know, the solo is weird, and so I actually have no idea what's going on rhythmically as I'm playing that solo. I just play it, and then I sort of hope to hell that I come out at the end and I'm in the right place. So there you go. And it worked out that night, I think. So yeah. I've never seen you do anything on a resonator guitar. No, I haven't. Don't have one. I guess life's too short. Can't do it all. Your opinion on Bogner amps, especially the Helios. Well, the Helios is probably my favorite, and I've never really used one, but I heard Lukather play through one night, and it sounded great at the Baked Potato. And I know that they're really, really close to the Marshall style amp that is a PT100 or a BE, you know. So it's Reinhold's take on those circuits. They're very, very, very close to that kind of, you know, gain stage in front of plexi style circuit that, and then you fine tune it all the way down the line. And so Steve sounded great through one. What I've heard online sounds great. You know, the other amps, I love Reinhold and I like the pedals a lot. I'm not like a huge Ecstasy fan. I just find them kind of dark and a little dampened to me. I don't know how else to describe it, but they do feel good to play through and sound good, like in the room. But like it's just that the real Marshall is a little wilder, you know, to me, and that's something that I've noticed over the years. And also they have a lot of low mids to me, but the Helios definitely in my wheelhouse, you know, and that's why he made it. I think is for folks that like that kind of thing. Here's a good question about volume pedals. When you use a volume pedal, do you use it as a master volume or to control gain and volume? So I've done both. For many years, I had a volume pedal in front, so it would be to control gain and volume, just like the volume knob in the guitar, in front of the amps. But later on, and now I actually have it in the loop of my amp. So when I use it, say, with my PT15 rig, it's coming in front of all the effects in my post path, so that I could roll it off and still have delay trails going and stuff if there was any echoes going. But yeah, it won't affect the gain of the front end of the amplifier, you know. So I think both ways are cool, actually. But I just figured I wanted to try it the other way, because the one thing that you can do is if you're at a rehearsal or at a sound check, you can turn down and then you can practice parts. And I really like that when I would see other people do that. With a volume pedal post distortion, essentially, you know, you can roll your volume way back and work on a solo kind of quiet at practice amp volume while talking's going on or they're working on something else, you know, and you can play and still kind of hear yourself, and then you can roll the volume up, and you know, so that's one thing that I really liked about it, that I would see other people do and that I couldn't do when I had it in front of my amps. It would just get clean when I rolled it back, and kind of like the volume wouldn't get so quiet, it would just clean up, you know. Eventually it gets quiet all the way at the end of the, you know, but you lose the gain. Yeah, lose the gain. We don't want to lose the gain. Let's see. Headed down to the bottom of the chat here. What else we got? Is there something in vintage SM57, or is this no vintage? Like our old ones better? I don't know that much about that. That would be something I would have to ask somebody like Warren Hewitt about, I guess. I think there's a thing with I know you can do the transformerless mod or something in a 57 transformerless, or change the transformer or something. There's these different things you can do. Some people argue that the precursor to the 57, I think they were silver, is really the cool one to get, you know. I don't know. I mean, it's like, to me, it's average sounding at best microphone that just happened to work well on electric guitar sounds. I'll tell you what my latest, I want to get one. Well, this brings me around to talking about this. This week, we're coming out with the PT Signature Speaker 2 Notes pack. So that's coming in midweek this week. So if you're a 2 Notes user, wall of sound user, and you want to check out my cabs and mic choices and stuff like that, you can get that, and you can get basically the sound that I do here, or wherever, whatever, my cabinets with my mic choices and stuff like that, and do it virtually within the 2 Notes stuff. So that's coming out. One of the mics that I asked for and that we got to do the pack with is the Sennheiser 441. So I'm not really a 421 fan, but that's the one that you see a lot of people use in the studio. But the 441, you'd see folks like Stevie Nicks and Elton John use in the 70s for a vocal mic. And it's kind of a sleeper on electric guitar. And my friend Rick Parker turned me on to it years ago and said, this is great on guitar cabs. And I tried it, and sure enough, man, it just sounds really natural. And try it and tell me it isn't great if you get the 2 Notes pack and try it out. It just sounds, compare it to the 57, and it's just all by itself. You can get, it's like a 57, but without any unpleasant harshness. Some people might argue the unpleasant harshness is part of what makes a 57 special. I still like 57s a lot, but I really want a 441, a 441, excuse me, a 441. And it's one mic that I don't have here around the studio. But when I go to studios, and when we went to Sunset Sound, we used it because they had one, and it really sounds great. And I'm glad I asked for it in the pack because it's a big part of it and what differentiates it, because I don't think any other 2 Notes pack has a 441 in it. It might, but it's, like I say, it's a bit of a sleeper mic and a bit unconventional, but for use on electric guitar. But yeah. I like the Sennheiser 441, says Bent Tom. The 421 was the Jimmy Page mic. Well, you see them in a lot of studios. I have one here. And they're cool blended with the 57. It's pretty good. But on its own, I find them mid-rangey. I find it kind of a strange sound, which might work for Jimmy Page sounds, And yes, slot it into a mix. That could be just what you want, But as far as just a natural, like, that's the way that cabinet sounds. Now you mic it and you go in the control room and listen and go, hopefully it sounds so close to the same. The 441 is a better choice to me, and it sounds really good. So anyways, 57s and old 57s and all that stuff, I don't know, but I will say the 441, that's the one I'm interested in these days. So is that cab bundled with Dave's? No, our cab packs are separate. I think mine's coming out first. I think his comes out in about a month, I think. Yeah. Somebody's asking about using the Helix live, finding it hard with the EQs, but it sounds great at home. Well, it's really important to dial things in for live at a band practice or at a sound check, I think it's hard to sometimes gauge the way that things are going to sound exactly at home. One thing I used to do, like when using a Helix, like how are you using it? This depends a lot on like whether you're using it just for effects or whether you're using it in conjunction with an amplifier for cable, or so. Tell me a little bit more about how you're using it, and maybe I can help further about how to dial it in. My sincere apologies for hounding you about Cinvertech Gold demo. Oh yeah, you know what? I have to do that, and that's coming. I've just been. I had these Black Friday releases, which were the folks from Emerald Guitars, that Virtuo guitar, as well as the Thermion fellow for the fuzz pedal. They both asked that their videos come out like that week, and I can only do so many. So it's like I haven't gotten to the N5 demo yet, but I'm going to do it. So sorry I haven't done it yet, and I apologize to Wu Nam too. But there's only one of me, and it was like I was really stressed even just getting those 2 videos done with other things I had to do that week and stuff. So I'll do it. It's coming this month for sure. It's sitting right here on the floor. So I got it coming. And I appreciate the super chat. Thank you. Kevin, is that you with the front of house no amp? Were you the one asking about the Helix? Front of house no amp. Let's see. I think that was you, right? Just trying to. I think that's you. Anyways, for a Helix, anything that's going direct to front of house, and you're going to use full range monitors or in-ears or something like that, what I recommend doing is if you're trying to make it sound like a Marshall or a Vox or whatever it is you're trying to do, and then you plug it in, it doesn't sound right, live, get the real thing at your studio space or your rehearsal or whatever, and then directly compare it and A/B it and dial in your sounds while you've got the real thing as a comparison. Because I think we can get so far away from the way that the real amps sound that it's detrimental to, just try and dial in a Helix on its own. It's like, I will say this. If you're using the stock impulse responses, get Celestion. Make your life easier and get the Celestion ones. So say you're using a Marshall style amp or a Vox, load up one of the Celestion. I always recommend the mic blends of the 121 and the 57, the high gain blend on whatever cabinet you choose. So let's say greenback loaded 412 high gain blend 121 and 57, the blended that they give you. Just go to that and use that as an IR on the sound for a Marshall thing or for a Vox thing or whatever you're doing, because those Celestion IRs, they've got a great sound that is really dialed in and fits in a mix nicely. They don't have a ton of low end compared to like some that I hear from like other companies out there, but that's not natural anyway. When I play through my Marshall cabinet in the other room and I have it mic'd up with two mics in the other room and I listen to it here, and then I can directly switch between say that and then my reactive load with the same amp running through it and everything with say the Celestion IR. The Celestion sound really, really balanced compared to what a real cabinet sounds like. So, this is why sometimes I think people will dial in the sounds at home and then they'll get in a live environment in a club or something. There's way too much low end or woof coming through the PA, and the sound guy's going, whoa, I gotta high pass your guitar like 120 and cut like pretty steep, and because this doesn't sound right, So if you don't have the chance to like A/B with a real amp, the sounds as you're dialing it in, just get some of the Celestion IRs I'll give them props, because you just go right to those as a surefire ticket to being, they're going to put that overall speaker cabinet filter on your guitar, that final filter that is a speaker cabinet and a microphone that is accurate to really close to what the real deal sounds like. And that should be helpful. But when I set up those modelers, what I do is I directly A/B. So I've got the real rig mic'd or whatever, and then I've got the modeling thing, the Helix, the Axfex, whatever it is. I put it on an A/B box and I dial in the sound on the amp the way that I like it, and with my real pedal board or whatever. And then I go over to the modeler, A/B, and now I dial it in and I just directly try and match them. That's the way that I do it. And then generally, lo and behold, when you take that to the gig, the modeler, then plug it in, it's like much more close to what, because you dialed it in your studio with a reference that is the real thing. Is that helpful? Yeah, that was Kevin that was asking that question. So that was, yeah, okay. Hopefully that helps you, man. Okay. I have an ombre. Can I get a pseudo effects loop jumping the channels and putting the pedals in between the two? I don't know. That'd be a question for John. It depends on how they're wired. You might get a out of phase thing jumping them. I'm just not sure. Like some amps, the two channels are out of phase. So if you Y cable, they'll cancel each other out. Might work if you're running 100% wet, but on that particular one, I'm just not sure. You can give it a try and see, but it's amp dependent. Some amps allow you to blend channels and other ones will like certain, Fenders and stuff that won't work. Obviously on a Marshall, it does work where you Y cable or split and go into the front. So it's very amp dependent. I'm just not sure on the ombre. I will tell you when I don't know something, but easy to check, right? Yeah. Let's see. What else here? Well, this is another thing. I had an issue with Helix main volume 1 patch was too loud. What that mean, Eric? I like that head rush has master out, so you can set it to a meter. yeah, setting volumes of patches and modelers, you really have to be, it's good to have like your home studio set up and actually look at the meter, you know, and make sure that your solo boost is coming up 4 dB maybe, or 3 dB from your regular, you know, and that your clean sounds, or the spike of the attack is about the same as your crunch. Kind of, you know, you'll find the crunch might sound louder, like in like, okay, so if the meter's the same and you go from clean to crunch, if you set the spike of the clean to be about the same as, you know, the spike of the crunch, which is compressed obviously because it's a crunch sound, right? So it's overdriven, it's clipped. When you go to the crunch in isolation, it might sound too loud, but what you'll find is it's about right with the bands. Because if you're playing crunchy rock, first of all, or clean, generally speaking, like clean means, you know, maybe the whole band is dynamically a little lower and the drummer's playing a little lower. And it's like, it's pretty rare the drummer's playing crash ride and super loud and you're on a clean patch, right? That doesn't really, you know, it's like you've got at least some overdrive or something happening, like generally, right? Most of the time when you're playing rock. So dynamically, you want the crunch to be at least at the level where the spike of the clean sound is. So you can check that on a meter in a DAW or on your interface or something and make sure of that. And generally it'll sound like the crunch seems like sort of loud when you go to the crunch, but it's going to be right, trust me. And then the lead, you want to be just a little bit above both of those. And if you do that, then you're going to find in the PA that the sounds are pretty balanced with the band and stuff. And I'm experienced enough. No, I guess I am experienced enough that I know how to do that now on my own in isolation and know that it's going to work pretty good. And then I could just tweak a dB here or there, or a couple dB here or there on a patch. But you'll find a lot of guitar players. I mean, I see it all the time. Even great guitar players, you go to gigs and, you know, they've on their overdrive pedals, it's the same thing. I hate it, man. When you go to a gig and you see somebody they're playing the clean sound, and then the band kicks into the chorus and it's supposed to be dirty and they hit the drive and the level goes down of the guitar, you know. They don't know how to dial in their pedals, like for the right levels, for the dynamics of the, you know, it's so weird to me. This didn't used to happen when guys, you know, here's the old guy shaking stick at sky, but when people used to use their volume control for clean on a Marshall or whatever, right? When you roll down like Eddie Van Halen would or whatever, you know, or, you know, Angus Young, right? You know, whenever playing like For Those About to Rock or whatever, and it's mellow at the beginning, you know, like it's like, when you've got one amp and it's really friggin' loud and that's your loudest sound, and now you just control the guitar volume, that worked really well. But when you got all these master volumes, which is essentially what a pedal board is with multiple drives, it can wreak havoc. You just need to know how to dial it in, you know, so that there's not this weird thing happening with all the dynamics. What multi-effect pedal board might you recommend for use of tweaking in a live situation when you have only 30 seconds for tweaking before the downbeat? Multi-effect pedal board, like the Helix, or I guess, right? Well, I have to say the Quad Cortex is pretty damn fast. It's probably the most limited in effects that it has, but it's pretty fast. I mean, the Helix can be fast if you know how to use it, I guess, because, you know, you've got the knobs there to hit the master volume on things, you know. So maybe it's just more a question of like, I'd say the hardest one is probably the Axe Effects. It's the hardest one I have going, but it's got knobs too. I just have the hardest time with it, with the layers, because it's deep. It's not really a criticism. It's just they've made their devices to be deep, and they're the hardest ones to tweak quickly, I find, because it's deep, you know. And it's not a criticism. It just is. It's part of the trade-off of having something that you can do a ton of stuff with. So, you know, yeah. I find the Quad Cortex simple, you know, to get around on. And the rotary encoders, the pots are rotary, right? The switches double as rotary encoders so I find that really easy to adjust rather than doing it on the touchscreen necessarily. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Daryl says he's got problems in the tourist town he's in. People are sucking up the internet. He's got bandwidth issues. Okay. Tour best Marshall Plexi in a box. My best Plexi. Well, that one's pretty rad for, you know. I mean, it definitely it's like just kind of it's a surefire go-to, easy, with the Variac and everything. The SL68, it's kick-ass for a touring. Definitely no question. If I was going on the road, like over my old Marshall, I would take that because it's just reliable and more, with the post-phase inverter master and all that stuff. So is that a new amp on top of the Sir? Which one? You mean way up top there, that little baby Marshall? I've had that forever. It's one of those little 1 watt. I think this fella. It's one of those little 1 watt JTM 45s. It's really cool, actually. It's great, fun little. I have a little matching 110 cab for it. Friedman stole it from me. I have to get it back. One day I said, "Where's my 110 cabinet?" Oh, I've still got it. Well, can you bring it to me? Okay. That was 2 years ago or something. Okay. In all seriousness, what's the secret to writing music? Music that touches the human spirit. One word, my friend: honesty. Honesty is such a lonely word. Everyone is so untrue. Little Billy Joel for you there. Sorry about that. Apologies on the Sunday afternoon. No, seriously, just be yourself. And that's the main thing for in all seriousness, touching the human spirit is authenticity, so being authentically yourself, whether you're punk rock or whether you're a, classically trained, whatever you are. It's like authenticity, really enjoying what you're doing, feeling like, you're not phoning it in, you're not doing something because you want to write a hit. That's the main thing, just being authentic and putting a lot into it, one thing I see a lot of people do with their playing and stuff on Instagram these days. Yeah. I just bring up Instagram because that's where you see guitar playing. You're scrolling and you're assaulted with everyone's talent all the time. It's a talent assault, isn't it? My feed is getting to be more and more cute animals rather than guitar players. I like the pets. Yeah, that thing, putting a lot into what you do. We'll take somebody that assaults us with his talent, but he's really, really good. So I enjoy his posts. Is that Jared James Nichols fella? Chocolate covered espresso beans. That dude plays with a lot of heart and soul, whatever he's doing, bending and vibrato. And he's like, look on his face. You can tell he loves what he's doing, and it's like, it's authentic. I love seeing that authenticity. That's the key. We could leave it at that. Let's see. Do I know who Melissa Doherty? No, I don't. I'm sorry. Not sure. Helix now has a dB meter included. That's good. That's one thing on a Helix that, I like having meters on things, and I find they don't put meters on a lot of digital modelers these days. It's one thing that the Kemper has. Axe-Fx has nice meters. It's important to know where you're at, So that's cool. Is that a new amp on top of the? Oh, so I already answered that. Let's see here. The problem I have with amp sim is having too many choices. I agree. So one of the things that I do when like I mentioned earlier, where I was A-Bing a real rig with a modeler to set up sounds on the modeler, I limited myself to only sounds that were like my real rig. So like the PT100 as the 3 channels, I would pick a sound in the Axe-Fx or whatever I was using that would do channel 1 and channel 2 and 3 of this amp. That's it. No extra amp sims, only 3. So I just found ones that I could dial in that sounded as close as possible to my real amp and said, that's all I'm going to use because that is mirroring my real rig. And when you do that, it's just real easy. It's like you don't get as much option anxiety about trying all these different sims and stuff. I do the same thing in the Helix, by the way. Like for PT100 style sounds, I go with the Lone Star channel 1 amp sim in the Helix. I can't remember what they call it, Texas something or other, but that sounded the closest to kind of a nice, channel 1 clean, Fendery clean to me. It's like, I guess it's like a Mesa amp, right? And then channel 2 and 3, I use the Placator, which is like the BE100 amp sim, which is quite close really to a PT circuit and stuff like that. So yeah. And then by limiting myself, I don't get as much option anxiety. This fellow's asking again in the chat here, Horst, new amp on top of the Sir. I think that's all you mean is that Sir, right? Because there's two Sirs here. There's this one too. I'll just tell you what everything is. That's a divided by 13 RSA 31. That's a top hat King Royale. That's an aux. That's a 2 notes load. And up there on top of that, Sir, is a Marshall JTM 1. Newest one would be the top hat that I got a few months ago. Let's see. Why does no one make boutique super reverbs? I think it's a limited sort of selling amp due to the large size. The 410 configuration is kind of heavy. That's it. It is one of the most legendary amps, and I love them. Like, super is outstanding. Probably my favorite Fender of that era. I did a video on one. You've seen it, maybe the Amps in the Zone video. Only one I've done on a Fender. That's why, because it's like just an outstanding amplifier. So I agree with you. And they can be had for actually pretty reasonable prices these days, I find, compared to vintage Marshalls and stuff. It's crazy. It's like super reverbs are. I saw them. I mean, at least in the last couple of years, I've seen them go for like under $1,600, like $1,500 for it. They're the price of new ones. It's crazy. It's like, really? Maybe I should buy this. Like, there's been a couple times when I've seen one and been like, let me just pick this up right now, and then I'll probably regret it, but maybe not. Do I really need a super reverb? Not really. Not really. Of all the things I could spend money on. Yeah. Let's see here. What are my thoughts on Supro amps? Cool. Don't really know a lot about them beyond, you know, Dave Friedman has a cool combo here that I've used a little bit. What else? The Sun Dragon amp is really cool. The Jimmy Pagey one, and especially the Park version. I guess it's not labeled as Park, but the Mitch Colby one that he did. A friend of mine has one of those. It sounds amazing. So there's definitely a thing to them that's really cool. It's just not an amp that I have a ton of experience with, but from what I hear, you know, they've got a cool thing. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Yeah, everybody's talking about, I'm back in the chat here. People are talking about speaking the truth. Lauren says, speak the truth and make it rhyme. John Lennon said, yeah, basically, right? That's good. I like that. Express your feelings and master your craft. Sure. Yeah, just be honest, you know. That was Guitar Nerd. You know, Guitar Nerd was a stupid cover, right? With me as, you know, I'm a kid. That's me on the cover. But like I was talking about this on a show that I taped yesterday for Lee Jackson. I'm going to be on his show in a couple of weeks. The cover was really serious in a way because it was a honest depiction of me, of like, I'm this kid that was guitar obsessed, and that's still who I am. So I haven't changed really, maybe for better or for worse, but because I still basically have the same sense of humor that I did when I was 12 too. But you know, hopefully I've evolved in some ways. Point being just that I'm this guy that's guitar obsessed, and like, this is my record. And it was kind of a statement of like, come along for this ride. I'm not trying to be anything I'm not. Like, it's the stupidest picture I have of myself. So right from the time you see the cover, it's like, you know, that's what you're going to get when you listen to the record. It's just honesty. Here's what I like to play. I wrote these songs not thinking about what's cool or whether or not it's, you know, hip or like, even if anybody cares, you know, or is interested, you know. And when you do that, that's when people really respond. I was talking about this yesterday as well. Like, I was watching this show on CNN called The 90s, you know, and it talks a lot about culture and music and stuff like that. And they were talking about Alanis Morissette and how there was this big, you know, the whole Lilith Fair movement and female singer-songwriters, a lot of honesty in their music at that time. And Alanis had been a pop star in Disney, you know, singing pop music that other people wrote for or whatever. And then she like got this deal, was going to make a record and just let it all hang out, right? And that was Jagged Little Pill. And like it or not, it's like it was very honest. She was writing from a perspective of a probably, you know, early 20s, you know, female at that point in her experience, and she just kind of poured it into the lyrics and like, hey, 25 million copies or whatever, you know. It's like it resonated because it was so honest, and nobody you know, I mean, yeah, it's just like when you hear people do that, it draws people in because we're human and we like honesty, we like authenticity. It's like it allows us to connect on the soul level. That's what the guy was saying, on a human soul level, that authenticity. And, you know, talking about things that maybe make you vulnerable or make you, you know, like you're pissed off, you're like, and expressing that in a song, you're mad about something, you're sad about something, whatever. People can tell when you're not phoning it in. So it's always a good, you know, good place to start from, is an honest emotions. Your fuzz demo was great, says Christopher. Thank you for the super chat. Notice you weren't using the EMG, sir. Yeah, there's a reason for that. Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. Because it was sensitive to fuzzes. Excuse me, active pickups. The fuzz was sensitive to active pickups, I should say. I checked it. It still sounded pretty good, even with a buffer in front. And you can kind of tame it and tune it using the EQ controls on that particular fuzz. But it sounded best to me with passive pickups, less bright, a little more, you know, fuzz circuits are, that's one thing, you know, you can use a big muff with a, you're limited with active pickups with the fuzzes you can get away with, you know, and a big muff is one that'll work just fine. Gilmore used big muffs, right, all the time. But they're not going to do the cleanup roll down thing, which I didn't even show in the video anyway. But even with the volume on 10 with a buffer in front of a fuzz that's sensitive to that, the fuzz will sound brighter and a little abrasive, you know. It's not the same sound as when you use a passive pickup, I find. Your main board looks like it is analog effects except for reverb and delay, but you seem to love the quad cortex. Ever going to fully digital? I mean, I've done fully digital as far back as using a pod in 2003 to play like in front of like, you know, 50,000 people in the Philippines with Mandy Moore. You know, certain gigs I've gone and played pods and used that. I've done it actually more than a few like big ass arena gigs and stuff using a pod beam, depending on the artist I've played with and where I was going and if it made sense. You know, one time going to the Dominican Republic, like Puerto Rico, going to different places where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to get for an amp if I go rent here. So it's a bit of a mystery. The Philippines, you know, so better go modeling. And this was pre-Axe Effects and everything. I would do it, you know. And Melissa Etheridge, I did a full tour right at the beginning of my stint with her in Europe with the Axe Effects. And then I did even a US run after that where I did it actually Ty Tabor style, the same way he was running his when he did some touring with King's X with the Axe Effects. I used it into a power amp and cabinets on stage, and then I used IRs to front of house as well for the sound. So these are all things that I've done at different times and experimented with and been happy with, you could say, as my main rig, you know. So it's all gig dependent. I'm a tube amp freak. This is why we made the PT15, was to have some of those capabilities, but in a tube head that was small enough and light enough that I could probably actually carry on a plane. You know, they're only 23 pounds. So it's like, you know, I could drop it in one of those, you know, backpack or something. And probably, I'm sure it'd be neat going through security with a tube amp, but it's light enough that I could actually do that. So that was the idea with the PT15. I'm all about whatever's right for the job. Part of why I took the quad cortex too, because it seemed like the right way to go for that particular show. And it sounded great in the videos, right? It worked. So it's like, I'm still playing through cabinets, and getting feedback on stage, but it does sound a little more authentic using the real amp loaded down, you know, into the quad cortex for just the effects. Cause I tried both these things and experimented with it a lot ahead of doing the gig. But I still opted to just take the quad cortex for that one gig. Yeah. There's an interesting question just before I get to the super chat. How is it that the chord progression in Hotel California can have both an E minor an E major chord. It's the kind of that, it's like the chorus and the, I don't know what the substitution is that you would call it, but it's like the chorus has a different feel and different compositionally than the verse, which it wouldn't work in the verse. But when they go to the chorus and it has that different kind of lift to it, I don't know, like why it sounds, I don't know, like music theory wise, why it works and why it doesn't. But it definitely, the chorus has a key change sort of thing to it, doesn't it? But that's really the only thing that changes. I think you're right, is that it's really an E7, right? It's a dominant sort of, they substitute that dominant chord in the chorus, right? So it's like, what are the chords that look out for? Let's see. Oh, sorry, it is there in the verse, isn't it? Yeah, I never thought about it, but yeah, I don't know. It's in that. It's the mystery of music. It works there in the verse, right? It's a little key change for a second, is all it is. You know, it's just enough to just tweak your ear for just a second. But hey, why can a blues have a minor and a major third in the same? Like, it's like it's the blues sound is like, you know, you play a seventh chord, but you play the minor third and then kind of bend into the major third. I mean, that's part of just how our ear works. So that minor major interplay, I guess. Music's magical. Music is magical. The album pick always brings me a smile. 12-year-old Pete would worship current day Pete. I wonder that is sometimes if you would have told me like some of the stuff that's happened or whatever, you know, back then that you know, but you know, I was thinking about it. I mean, it's funny. If you're that crazy about guitar, your heroes and all the folks that like whatever, like the, you know, you reach the pinnacle of you know, a little while ago, I was asked to go help Steve Vai with something, and won't go into details, but I was asked to just go help him with something. And just right there is like, you know, if you would have told me when I was like 13 or 14 that I would get a request to go help that guy with something, that I would have some sort of knowledge how I can somehow, you know, and that I would find myself like in his studio and he's giving me a tour and playing me some new music he's working on and stuff. And, you know, and I told him too, actually, it was a really nice, I had a great time there. And he played me this track that he was working on. And afterwards, I looked at him, you know, I'm in the seat by this really cool custom console that he's got there, that all green console he has. And I'm sitting there listening. And afterwards, I looked at him and I said, I don't know what to say. I said, this is just, you know, and I thought I might have even mentioned, I said, if you would have told me when I was a kid that I'd be sitting here and you were playing me music, you know, and he was just laughing, but he was very gracious. And I had a really nice time with him that day. But yeah, if you would have told me, you know, be like, what I was going to say though is if you stick around long enough and you really care, you know, and you really, this is really what your heart's in, you know, there's no substitute. Once again, it's honesty. I like the theme of this show is kind of turning into being honest. Like, there's no substitute for that. And it's a small world, really, the guitar community and our little niche end of the music business. And you will find yourself around those circle of people, like eventually in that circle of people that maybe you were your heroes and you grew up, you know, worshiping, you know, and then like one day you just sort of, peers not the right word. They're still, you know, up here, but you will find yourself maybe in their presence and get to be like experience a little bit of it, you know, which is really cool. And then there will be folks coming up under you that maybe look at you the same way or in a similar, you know, I don't know, something. And I guess it's a big cyclical thing. And that it's just that, yeah, it's like, I guess it's what you know, it's the, like maybe we don't value our elders enough in Western culture and stuff, but we do have this thing like still where if that's your niche, you know, those folks will always be up there to you. And then you're going to, you know, you pass on what you know to people underneath you. And it's that cyclical thing where it's like, you're where you're supposed to be or whatever, you know, and your heart's in it. Yeah. I don't know. It's an amazing thing. You know, I love seeing kids like, you know, like if I go do a clinic and I'm in, you know, far flung places that I've been, you know, be it Thailand. I mean, I remember this kid coming to my clinic in Thailand. He was the cutest kid. And he had he's smiling. He's just like face was lit up at that clinic, you know, and he was so stoked. And I remember taking a bunch of pictures with him and his dad. It made me so happy to see this kid, like so into guitar and like just stoked to be there. And And that's, yeah, I don't know. It's just amazing, you know, it's cool. But anyways, James, I declare that stacking drive pedals is a fool's game. I've had a lot of these conversations with folks over the years, you know, about the stack drives thing. Very slightly dirty amp, favorite drive, clean boosting compressor. Yeah, dude, that's about what I use, to be honest. It's like I've got a few different drives for different flavors, but it's pretty rare they're on at the same time. I may run my Unit 67 or my other compressor in front of one of my drives. So that could be argued that it's kind of stacking two different flavors of boosting, but I'm never running multiple. Okay. Once in a while, I've used the Jan Ray, and I set it really low gain. I mean, the gain's down around like 930 with the volume at about 9 or 930, you know, so that it's just giving a little, because it's got a lot of output, the Jan Ray, and then just it's doing just a hair grind for like it's really a thickener with a bit of overdrive. And then sometimes I'll hit that with an Archer, and that's a certain lead sound that I have enjoyed and used in the past. If that's pedal stacking, well, I guess I've done it. But beyond that, I'm not the guy getting my tones that way, really. I mean, I'm all about like amp distortion, as you know. So Unit 67, which is really I use as compression and a little bit of boost into the Bogner Blue. That's a great sound that I used for some stuff on the classic rock show tour. Might have been, if you listen to the sound I got on Who Are You, which I was really happy with. That's what that is. It's the Bogner Blue into the clean channel of the PT15 with the Unit 67 in front as well. Pete used compressor, though, you know, a lot. Still does, I think. Townsend, I mean. As a boost, kind of, you know. I don't think he likes too much distortion. So for him, like an overdriven amp that cleans up a lot after the initial attack, high watt, right? It's not compressed, really. It's like there's a drive there, but then it fades quickly, and he likes acoustic guitar, really. And then, you know, if he wants sustain, I think he would rather hit it with a Dynacomp or whatever he uses, you know, something. I mean, he went through his fuzz pedal phase, which is arguably his greatest sounds live at Leeds. What's that? Super Fuzz or whatever, right? Amazing sounding. So he went through his sustainy, fuzzed out phase too, that not enough people talk about, because God, the tone on live at Leeds is unbelievable. Anyways, if you were to choose the EVH 5150 or the Bogner Helios, it would depend on what I was doing, you know. I think the Helios is a bit more of a one sound thing, where the EVH multi-channel, you know, do you want more? Has Helios got two channels, or is it? I think it's a bit more like, you know, are you metal to clean, or are you Marshall AC/DC rock and roll? And, you know, so it's hard to pick. Yeah. Oh, is Ben here? Ben, how's your Ben had some home repair issues I think he had to tend to. What else we got here? Nathan says the guitar community is a small world. Even other LA-based guitar players like Stroud, Sims, Saran, Fernquist, Derico, Pierce, you run into in public all the time. I know all those guys except for Sims. Stroud's really he doesn't live in LA unless something's changed. I think he's an Atlanta guy. Greg Saran actually lives in Chicago now, but spends his time sometimes in LA because he's working here. Fernquist, Brad Fernquist, guitar player with the Goo Goo Dolls, and did many other sidemen gigs before that, from Calgary, Alberta, and kind of about the same age as me, and really has had a very similar kind of arc. I mean, I don't think he does YouTube and stuff like that, so I've deviated a bit. But for many years there, we were like, to the point where I've got a picture of me and Brad Fernquist actually somewhere showing up we were on the same tour, and I showed up and he had a black t-shirt on and jeans and black cons, and I had the exact same outfit on. We had like basically the same haircut. I remember taking a picture with him. We're like, dude, we're the same guy. We're both from Alberta. We do the same thing for a living. Justin Derico, he's amazing. And of course, he's the sweetest dude in the world. And Jesus, he rips on guitar. Oh, wow. Does he ever? and he's done very well for himself on The Voice. Tim Pierce, the legend. Nothing needs to be said about Tim. And we all know. We know. We all know. Tim's amazing. Thank you for the super chat there. What speakers do you recommend for a 95 twin reverb, using it clean with varied overdrive and distortion for dirty channel? Reissue Jensen's no bueno. I would, if you want a good overdriven sound, I'd go Celestion of some sort. Maybe the A-type wouldn't hurt. It's a twin, so it's high power. A-type will handle 50 watts at least, I think. So you should be okay with two of them. But yeah, I would probably lean in that direction, or maybe even the Celestion Gold. Something like that. Yeah. I'm going to go A-type or Celestion Gold. I think. Those are my recommendations. A-type just being sort of, they're more American, but it still sounds British. And sounds like a nice worn-in greenback, actually, when you hit it with some drive. So I've got videos for that. You could maybe even do a blend of a gold and I'm not sure about the efficiency of a gold and an A-type, but that might be neat in a twin. Yeah. Bent Tom says, if you were offered a large band guitar spot like Phil X did, who would you want to play for? I mean, Phil has the unique ability to sing like he does, so he's perfect in Bon Jovi because he can do those parts. So he's great in that role. I don't know, man. I'd love to be in a band with. I'd love to play with Foo Fighters or something. I mean, to be honest, that'd be a blast because it's super fun rock and roll. I know all those guys. I mean, they're fun, but they're fine. They don't need me. But if in a perfect world, if I wanted a fourth guitar player. Dave is a super nice guy. I don't know. I shouldn't say I know Dave really well or anything, but I know I've known Pat for years and spoken with Chris and stuff we were actually going to get together and do some playing, and we never did. But anyways, I've known Pat for 20 years or something like that. So I digress. They don't need my help. But anyway, I just like Dave, and I like the way I know he runs a tight ship, and he's a hard worker and all that. And and I like that, I think I would do well playing with him. Nails. I wish I'd play with 9 Inch Nails, which was something that almost happened and then it didn't transpire. But I would love to work with Trent Reznor because he's a friggin' genius, I think. And that was the one that got away for me. I liked working with him in the limited capacity that I got to spend a couple 3 days, playing music, and I seem to appreciate. Maybe it would change over time. I don't know, but when he would ask me to do things and I would do them, he seemed like it was working, and I felt good about it. And I learned from him even just in a short period of time. So that I spent with him. So I would love to do that, but. Anyway, did you see the Rick Beato interview with Sting? Yeah. I did, and I thought it was great. I thought it was really terrific. I know Rick worked hard on that interview, organizing it, getting it all, set up and stuff like that. And he went to great lengths to do it. And Rick's a guy that honestly cares about his craft, not just music, but also what he's done on YouTube and stuff. And it shows, and he deserves to get these great interviews, and because he does a great job. So I think Sting really enjoyed it. It seemed like, and Dominic, that Rick asked really musically intelligent questions and was obviously, it's something that Rick will do when you get together with him. You'll be taken aback within a few minutes about his knowledge of the research he's done, and also just his innate knowledge of music and what he, brings to an interview like that. It's pretty special. Do you ever get bored of rock and Rolex? I do. Yeah, which is why I always try and spice things up, at least in what I'm doing, with at least a weird note or something, something that tweaks the ear a little bit. So there's like Rick talked about it with Sting, a surprise in the music, right? Sting said there's got to be a surprise. So, by the way, I really like the first song on the new Sting album. It's a bit of a banger. It's like it's a bit of a throwback to like maybe his 90s sound when he played a little more mid-tempo, open rock stuff. Does it sound like the track Soul Cages a little bit or something? But anyway, that song I really like. The album is good. It's a little bit, I mean, what am I, a friggin' music critic? But to me, it's like, it's good. It's a little bit on the singer-songwriter down tempo, mellow side. But that first track is really great, and I haven't heard him do anything like that song in a while, and I really, really like it. Running Water, I think it's called. Enjoyed it. Any love for the Kemper these days? Haven't used it in a while, but it's not like I dislike it or anything. I think it's good. It's great. There's only so much time to do all this stuff. I mean, these days, it was like last week. It's like, when would I have plugged in the Kemper? I was plugging in the Virtuo guitar, getting sounds, making a video, then a fuzz pedal. So for that, I'm going to go into a Marshall for sure, or something that sounds great with fuzzes. I actually used the PT-15 for everything in that video, I think. And then that's 4 days of work, so it's like then you're out of time, to do other things. But anyways, shush. Any advice for aspiring songwriter living in LA who's not the best singer? Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be a great singer to get to be Diane Warren, or to get a publishing deal and be, you find singers that can sing your songs and you record demos, is what you do, or if you're an aspiring songwriter primarily, I think. So, like, do you want to be in a band? You have to ask yourself what it is you want to do. You have to define if you want to be the songwriter of a band because you still like performing and you want to tour and you want some camaraderie and be in that position. You're like, I just like writing songs. If you're like a person that doesn't really like engineering, doesn't really like, I'm not really interested in compressors and like whatever. I just like writing. I sit at the piano and I play my guitar and I feel like I've got a talent for writing. Well, now you're like, I don't want to tour. I don't really want to be in a band. I just want to be a songwriter. Well, that's Diane Warren, It's like, you have to define what it is you want to do. I mean, even Linda Perry, to some degree, she learned how to do, she can sing and she's an artist in her own right. But I think writing was, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe she different phases, but she struck me as mainly a writer that really enjoyed production as well, but maybe not engineering as much. So she'd always have an engineer there to help. She can do it, and she liked to, be hands-on, like at the board sometimes and stuff, but it wasn't the primary. I think she liked having her head in the game as far as production, songwriting. Those were where she was focused on the song, the big picture of that stuff all the time, like the big picture of the project. And if you're too far technically, in that world and stuff and doing Pro Tools edits and stuff or whatever, it can take you out of that. So she was smart with the way she would have people around her. So what I'm saying is define what it is you want to do and then assemble, try and get in your circle where you can write, have somebody there that is a great singer that is willing to sing on your songs, or that you can pay to sing on your songs if you can do that. Other musicians that can sort of help you facilitate to get those songs out there. Maybe you hook up with a band that could use help. They're a good band. They play good, but their songs are, maybe you can get in there and be sort of a writer with, lend them a bit of, when I think of like Pi Dubois with Rush, it's like, or sorry, with, did Pi write? No, he didn't. Sorry, that was all Neil. I meant with Max Webster. With, did he ever work with Rush? He might have collaborated with Rush. That's maybe why I like a little slip there. But I think, he was mainly like with Kim Mitchell and stuff. He would team up with him and write lyrics and stuff. And so obviously he worked with artists. This isn't going to mean anything to folks that aren't Canadian. Pi Dubois. He was a lyricist that wrote some really funny, like kind of esoteric, like cool lyrics, but with Kim Mitchell and the band Max Webster. There's an avenue for you, to hook up with people, is my point. That and then you just need to surround yourself with folks that can help you do what you want to do. Some people do it all. That's Trent Reznor. You are the band pretty much, and you dictate everything, and you're the songwriter and the producer, and you're very hands-on. There's a super chat couple that I missed there. Sorry. So defining your role is important. Like in this business, figuring out what it is you want to do. Like, because there's only so much time You know, I know Tim Pierce, for example, he's very like focused these days on sessions and YouTube, doing his, you know, like I said to him once, "You gonna do another solo record one of these days?" He goes, "Nope." He's like, "YouTube is my solo record. Like, this is my creative outlet and I'm focused on it." And Tim's really good at defining that kind of stuff, like where I'm going to put my energy. There's only so many hours in the day. He wants to spend time with his family and stuff too, and not be like constantly, you know, working like on a million different things. And so how do you do that? And how do you maximize your time spent? His studio is really set up that way. I mean, for him to maximize when he sits down, plug in a hard drive, and he's going to get a lot of work done in the next 2 or 3 hours, you know, and it's really smart. That kind of streamlined thing. Have you heard Big Rec's new LP? So awesome to hear new stuff from Ian. You know what? I haven't, dude. I got to listen. Haven't, to be honest. You're making me, every week when I come here, you guys remind me of things I got to do, and that's one of them. I need to listen because I love Big Rec and I love Ian, so got to check it out. Celestian is running a Black Friday sale. What 3 IRs and cabs would I recommend? I love the Sir 412 greenback IRs from them. Slow right now talking. Don't know why so slow. So I would get those. Another nice flavor is my signature cab, to be honest. I'm saying that because it's my signature cab, but of course I like it. The 212 Sir Backline Heroes, you know, whatever they call it. It's got G12H 75s in it. I think they sound great, those IRs. It's a nice flavor to contrast with the greenbacks. You can use it for metal. You can use it for clean stuff, rock and roll. I would probably get either like an open back 112 or 212 with either the A types or maybe the Celestian Blues for different, like for clean stuff. It's nice to have an open back, you know, some open back character going on. So there's a few. Yep. Did you ever hang out with Lemmy? No, I never did. But I tell you what, I used to go to the Rainbow and he'd be sitting right there beside the bar playing Pac-Man or whatever he used to play, or Asteroids. I think it was Pac-Man that he used to play. You see him at the Rainbow all the time. Like if you went in there, just on a like a, you know, Wednesday night or whatever. Oh, there's Lemmy hanging out playing. You know, you leave him alone. You know, I never bothered him. But yeah, it's just like people that have been in the Rainbow know what I'm talking about. But the bar on the bottom level, he would sit there at the video games and play all the time. Things you see in LA. It's like stereotypical, right? But it's like, it's true. You'd go there and there would be those things, you know, that would happen. You'd run into people that would be like, oh, I guess this is actually really happens here. The last time I ever saw him, I remember I did play the same night as him. It was a New Year's Eve at the Roxy. Steve Stevens invited me to come down and sit in and play, like, I think we played War Pigs or something with the Camp Freddy band, you know, the band he does with like Dave Navarro and Matt Sorum. And so it was all those guys. And I got up and played like 2 songs, and Lemmy got up and did a couple songs that night. But once again, I just was there with him. I don't think we ever spoke or anything like that, or that I met him. So he's a legend, though. A legend. Let's see. Let me just hang out at the Astoria in London. I played that place with Chris. Yeah. Yep. Cool guy, seemed like, right? Arthur says he saw him there many times. Yeah, he was always there, man. It's like he hung out there all the time. The Rainbow, man, there's a nice vibe there. I must say, it's like a little, like for LA, which is really transient, you know, people come and go, whatever. The Rainbow had this neighborhoody vibe. It would be the neighborhood, the equivalent of the neighborhood pub where, you know, Lemmy just happened to hang out or whatever. I guess that's it. The Rainbow had this vibe, much like I think of when you've got these great pubs in England that are like the Hang, where, you know, I'm sure you'd see, you know, like whatever the guys in Oasis would go or something, whatever, like where it's just like, yeah, you just have your pint and enjoy it or whatever, and people leave you alone or whatever in the neighborhood. That's the Rainbow, you know, in a way, in LA. And it's still there, and I hope it never goes away. These places keep disappearing, and at these blocks, I guess things change, whatever, you know. But these blocks get bought up by developers, and they put in big condos and developments and all that, and eventually it'll just be like I guess all that stuff is gone, and then it'll be the Sunset Boulevard of yore, you know. The good news is there's other parts of LA that are really cool. Like for, you know, I hang out in Highland Park a lot because I love the vibe there, and I love the old kind of like if you ever come to LA, Highland Park Bowl is an amazing thing to see, which is the oldest bowling alley in LA. And it still exists, and it's beautifully restored, and the bars are really beautiful in it, and it's got the alleys are all restored. There are these old bowling alleys that are basically preserved. Amazing, you know, the vibe in there is so cool. And there's a separate room where bands play in there, and it's, you know, kind of indie rock bands, and it's a cool vibe. And they have great pizza, wood-fired pizza. It's nice. It's a good vibe. I like Highland Park a lot. Way more, you know, it's totally getting gentrified, you know, but it's like with that comes some cool places. There's some neat bars and stuff to go hang out in, that I quite enjoy over there. Places to go eat and stuff like that. So it's cool. Any Spinal Tap moments? I got a good one. I remember driving. We had this festival we were playing at when I was in the band Blinker the Star, and we were playing in Boston, and this festival was down around DC. It's far. It's a long drive from Boston to get down that far. And I remember getting up super early because we had to make, you know, this 4 p.m. afternoon slot way down there. So we drove all that way and got down there, and we set up, and, you know, it was a great big stage, but it was really poorly attended. And I remember there was a couch in front of the stage, and there was a dude that kind of looked like a biker sitting on the couch facing the band. So there's like literally like, it's just like a field with like, it looks like, you know, the local picnic or something with some, whatever, like some people like scattered throughout the field. We pictured a festival, you know, like, and it's like, no. And there's literally somebody's brought a couch and put it in front of the stage. And there's this dude that looks like a biker sitting there, and he's got his chick. She's basically straddling him on the couch, and she's like making out with him. So she's facing away from the band, and he's like kind of looking over her shoulder and checking us out while they're like making out on the couch. That happened. I think that's even better than Spinal Tap Puppet Show. If you could just visualize it, like these two, you know, and it was just like, oh my God, we drove like 12 hours to get here. That was pretty cool. Oh, it's all glamour out there on tour, isn't it? It's all glamour all the time. Rock and roll. Yeah, that happened. Let's see. Yeah, concert intercourse. Yeah, they weren't quite like, but it was, you know, they were definitely like, you know, yeah, wasn't. No, I didn't approve. Let's see. Have you ever done any business with the WWE CEO, Vince McMahon? I've never heard of these guys. I have not. No business done. Last time I was visiting LA, I stayed with friends in Los Feliz and met Tim Curry in a coffee shop. Los Feliz is great. I love Los Feliz. I mean, that whole like, what is it? Hillhurst and what's the street? Vermont, right? Great, you know, all the shops up and down there, and you know, the Fred 62 and all the cool places to go hang out there. It's a cool hood. Go see Marty and Elaine at the Dresden. All that good stuff. I missed a super chat. Thanks, Robert. If I was to buy a Marshall type combo and having never played a Marshall, what 20 or 30 watt 12-inch combo would I recommend? The one I'm recommending these days around 20 is Friedman's little the Runt. You know, I think he makes a Runt 20. Basically a BE style channel, nice modded Marshall style channel with a nice clean too. So I think that's a good way to go. In a combo amp that size, you know, that's the one I would look at. And maybe even want to get, I think he makes the 50 in a combo. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. I never knew how well you knew the Foo Fighters. Well, I don't really know them that well, but I've known Pat for a long time. If I see him, he's like, "Hey, how are you?" And I'm like, "I'm good, man. What have you been doing?" And I've known him for about 20 years because I knew his wife. I met him because I knew his wife back in the day. They've been together forever. And when they were still just dating, she's Canadian. She was a drummer and she was in a band and needed to figure out a work visa thing. And so I explained to her how I had done it back then. And, I got together and helped her with that. And that is indeed how she did it back then. Now they're married and everything, have kids. But that's how I met him. Look back. And I think, was he even in Foo Fighters then? I think he was, because you know how he left for a while? There was a period when he wasn't in the band. I don't even know if he was in the band right at that point. This is like late 90s, early 2000. So, but that's why I met him. And yeah, Dave, not sure he would remember me, but I've met him 3 or 4 times over the years just because one time I remember probably the first time I met him, actually, I was playing with Cornell and we were at a taco place. And once again, this is the things that happen in LA. We're at a taco place in a strip mall in North Hollywood getting lunch on a break from rehearsal, and Grohl walks in. And it's, so it's like Cornell and me and the drummer from the band, and then Dave's there and they know one another. They're friends. He directed one of the Soundgarden videos, right, from King Animal. But anyways, it's like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And then we all met and rapped or whatever, and we're all sitting there in this taco shop. So that was the first time. And then since then, well, I know Rami actually probably better than any of them, because Rami I've known for years through Yogi, because he was in the Wallflowers with Yogi. It's a small world shit, Yogi I played with in Cornell's band, of course, and then Rami I've hung out with a little bit, and over the years, it's just, he's everybody knows Rami in LA, I think. So it's not like I know any of them. I'm not calling any of them up right now, but Chris recently, we traded numbers, and I should get in touch with him because we were going to talk. He's a Van Halen geek, and he wanted to geek out on Van Halen stuff with me because he knows I'm a geek and I know how to play a bunch of that stuff. So, but we just never connected on it. Yeah. What else we got here? It would be cool if you did some preamp pedal demos with a good solid state amp like the Quilter Tone Blocks. I guess so. I feel like it's still kind of niche, and then I don't know if it really tells people what I think the tone blocks look cool and sound cool from what I've heard, but isn't it kind of niche? I don't know that serves a large portion. To me, it's like using the clean channel in my amp or the clean channel set kind of neutral on the PT100 is the best overall, including for you with the tone block, because it's a Fendery clean. So I try and make it like when I'm doing a video of a pedal, you got to meet this cross section of people out there that how was this going to sound through my amp is what they really want to know, So, so that's the only thing, Any chance we'll see a PT15 combo? I was just thinking about this today. It's I thought about talking about this with John. It's I know he has an aversion to turning the knobs around backwards and just mounting a head in a combo cabinet. He doesn't like doing things that way, but that's exactly what Marshall did. And it's what Dave Friedman does and stuff. And I'm just there's a part of me that wants to go to John and say, why are we let's not fight this and let's just make a cool cabinet that works like this. If the knobs are backwards, the knobs are backwards. You know what I mean? Because it's the same thing that Fender did with the Basement. It's mounted backwards, And when Marshall did their combos in the 70s, super lead style combos and stuff, it's just the head mounted in a cabinet, And then you got the knobs are all backwards with all the writing backwards. Who cares? I sort of think, I know it's not optimum, but you do have to kind of do a redesign otherwise of the amp with the tubes down and all that, like Fender did, right? So that you can then put it in you know, and then you run into heat troubles and stuff like that with the tubes and the stuff. If you want to put all the panel in the front, Mesa does it, Fender does it, right? I almost would like rather take the path of least resistance and do what Friedman does with the runts and with the dirty Shirley combo and stuff. Just mount the knobs backwards. I don't know. Discuss. How do you guys feel about that? Is it? John says, I thought Dave hated combos. He probably does, but he does them anyway. Just because it's the market, you know. And I don't think John likes that about combos. I mean, you know, John puts a lot of thought into things. So when you look at the ombre and everything and the way it's laid out and the way it's built on the inside and everything and the panel, I mean, he wants it to make sense and be very, you know. And it's the same thing with the Bella. You know, it's built to be that way, you know, like, and I guess the Bella head, it's easy because it's a tubes down kind of thing. And, but anyway, with my amp, tubes up, whatever, we would have to do the reverse thing and the knobs would all be backwards. But in a way, I'm just sort of like, I don't know, let's just do it. Because some people want a combo. So, you know. Any thoughts on the plug-in Alliance PT100 amp sim? Is it identical to the amp sim's incredible, dude. I mean, they did an amazing job on it. It's been great on the UA platform, and it's exactly the same in the plug-in Alliance version that's out now. So, and it's so cheap. I swear, you know, I know it's mine and all that. I didn't do the R&D on it though. It's like I did a little bit. They sent me one version of it back when we were doing the UA version, and I thought it's really good. It's a little too bassy, and it's got like a bit of woofy thing going on, and they go, yeah, we're still refining it. Let's send you another one in a month. Then they sent me the second version of it, and it was perfect, and it just sounded amazing. And I use it in my videos, and it sounds, you know, I'll use it for things. I think it's amazing sounding plugin, and I hear nothing but good things from people that have gotten it. So kudos to, you know, the folks that the Brainworks Plugin Alliance folks and the people that actually worked on it, you know, to get it to be as good as it is. Because I didn't have that much to do with it, you know, beyond, of course, we made the original amp, and I had a lot to do with that. Yeah. Yeah. Lawrence says Dave likes selling combos more than he hates playing them. I don't know if he hates playing them. It's probably just, you know, there's a lot with combos like the cabinet rattle and things. There's a lot of things involved with combos that are difficult with putting a speaker in the same enclosure as the amp. And it's just kind of, you know, but yeah, I would say so that he likes, you know, there's a market there. Some people want them. So why not? You know, just do the best you can with it, make the best cabinet you can, make the best, you know, and give people what they want, right? I would be very happy to have a PT15 combo and just take the path of least resistance, turn the thing backwards around. And yes, you got to kind of, you know, there's knobs on there that you're going to have to kind of get around the back. There's a million amps like that, though, with the knobs like that, you know, and it's like, I think it'd be cool to have, you know, like a 110 PT15 combo would be cool, you know. But we'd probably do a 12, I'm sure. But, yeah, do a single 12 with the, you know, a creamback 75. Killer. Why not? I probably play through it all the time. I like combos, kind of, you know. Yeah. I mean, we do have a separate. We got a cute little 112 that goes with it. That sounds great. So, you know, PT15, you get the separate cabinet and away you go, right? I know it's not exactly the same thing, but did you see how cool John Sir was in that recent Gear Page thread about a Buzzy Fret? Yeah, John was very cool about it. And the guy's getting his guitar worked on by John, you know. And I guess it was like just like the nut, like the open low E was a little rattly for this guy or whatever. So they took the guitar back. John's doing all the work on it. That's all I'll say about it, because, you know, I know it frustrates John. Like, I think the main thing is like that frustrates him is if there's a customer that's got a concern with a guitar and they go straight to the internet, even as they're maybe pursuing the appropriate customer service channel, or in lieu of the appropriate customer service channel, they go right to the internet and complain about. It doesn't get you anywhere. Like, really, you know, it's like if they're going to take care of you and they're going to fix it. So what's the point of going and saying this sucks or whatever? And I agree with that. I think it's like kind of like, you know, hey, shit happens all the time. I mean, how many Gibsons get shipped with nuts that aren't, and this wasn't like that, it was a little bit more of a like, from what I understand, it was a bit more of a like, for this certain setup, if you play it this certain way, it's maybe not the optimum, but that's all I'll say about it. He's taking care of it, and the guy's going to get back a guitar with a ridiculously good fret and nut situation because he's doing the work himself. So when is the video with you and Lee Jackson going to be released? I don't know. I filmed Lee does his videos on Friday nights, puts them out Friday, so maybe it's in a week. Maybe it's 2 weeks. I'm not sure how far out he films and stuff, but I had a great time chatting with him. Nice conversation. He was cool. Yeah. I need a 112 to go with my DSL to take out for a night. May build one, dovetail those joints. My DSL-1. Oh, I see. Marshall DSL-1. DSL-1, isn't that the little 1 watt? You play it through 412? Is it that loud? Hey, get a PT 112. It's awesome. Let's see. It says, Pete has multiple guitars with Floyd's. He played the EVH for the VHE gig. EVH, VHE. EV. I never realized that. That's just the same thing backwards. EVH, VHE. I had to see it to know. Yeah, that's true. I do have a bunch of guitars with Floyd's. I got my black Particicaster. I got my brown modern with a Goto Floyd. Got my Jackson. I have at least, and then the 2 EVH guitars, the Bumblebee and the Red, White, and Black Frankenstein. So I have at least 5 guitars around with Floyd's. Oh, if I have one with a non-fine tuning Floyd too. That's around. It's 1:44. I should go soon. Start to get some work done. I'm working on a video right now for the 2 notes package, so I got to get that done within a couple of days. But I'll hang for another 5 minutes here. So plus I gotta pee. Let's see. Any more? Did I miss any super chats? I don't think so. Thank you all you guys for all the super chats today. I really appreciate it. Keeps the coffee flowing around here. Thanks for the VH pickup shootout. Pasadena White nails that sound in my North Ash Frank. I agree. That pickup sounds rad. It's a really good sounding pickup from Pariah. They make nice stuff. Yeah. I've got the one here, and I'm going to put it in something. I don't know what. Something. Eventually. Yep. Have you heard of Red Bishop Trem Bar System for Floyd's? Look into it. Allows you to have a looser bar, but no play. That's interesting. Sounds interesting. Yeah. Late to the stream. Thank you for introducing us to the SL68. I'm in love with that amp, and it's the most reliable, best sounding amp I've ever owned. That's awesome. That's excellent, Joshua. Glad you dig it. Great sounding amps. No doubt about it. I'm glad John made it. That was a really nice organic. He's like, I wanted a 100-watt Marshall. And Van Halen spec kind of Marshall. And John's like, I'll just make you one. Okay. And then he went to work and he just did it. He just made me this amp. And then I was like, this has got to be a model that and it came out and became their #1 hand selling amp. It was very like fast and kind of like he just did what he wanted to do and made a great amp. Great modern build plexi, basically. Okay. What else? Down at the bottom of the chat, see if there's anything down here, and then I'm going to split. If your bladder is your friend, don't abuse it. It's true. I got to go pee, so I'm going to go in 2 minutes. Eric says, thanks. Until next time. Hey, I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you. I'll see you next week. Yeah. This is cool. You say you're too poor for my gear, but you're good with woodworking. That's cool. Go for it. Build it up. You got a skill set I don't have there, my friend. Let's see here. Ben says he's got Aaron from Albus Band on tonight on Ben's live stream, Sunday nights on Ben's channel. Check it out. Snowing in the UK. Got to head over there soon. Bring your thermals. I will. I'll bring warm stuff for sure. I had a killer coat that I bought for that last tour over there, and it kept me warm the whole time. So. What's the gold Parts-A-Caster guitar with a microphonic DiMarzio? It's just a, it's an ESP body, basswood, I think. The neck on it is all parts, I think. All parts or no? Warmouth? It's Warmouth or all parts? I don't remember. Don't really like it. It's a bird's eye maple. It's a weird shape. And it's not weird shape. It's just a big V. And I would rather have kind of a, like Charvel styles, D neck or whatever on there, or C or something. Big frets and all that. Again, keeping with the theme, I need a PT15 combo. I'll talk to John about it. I don't know that it'll be that amp, but I would love to have a combo one of these days for sure. All right, you guys. Nathan says, thanks for the stream. Huge part of my Sundays. Me too, man. Happy to be here every week. Super fun. I enjoy it. This week, I'll try and get the video done for the N5 Plus, the Synvertech Distortion, because it's great. I've got a Dry Bell Univibe version 3, their Vibe pedal, the third version of it that I got to get done. Once again, 2 notes, of course, that's coming out. So there'll be at least a few things that I put out this week for sure before I see you next Sunday. If you can make it next Sunday, join us back here, same time, same place, and we will continue on our quest for tone. Thanks, everybody. Love you all. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all the super chats. You guys are the best.